Hey everyone, this is a video on section 4.7, Sustainable Development. So what is sustainable development? It is development, so improving the lives of everyone in a country that occurs while still meeting the needs of the current generation, but ensuring that resources are not depleted or degraded for future generations. Now, this conflict between the economy and sustainability brings to mind the classic dilemma that there needs to be a balance between economic goals and environmental goals. So if we focus purely on economic goals, satisfying our unlimited needs and wants, then what that's going to cause is we're going to use all the resources we can to satisfy those wants, and it's going to cause irreversible environmental destruction, which we don't want. Likewise, if we focus only on environmental goals, only on preserving the environment, then that's not really going to work for satisfying our needs and wants. So that's not ideal either. There has to be a bit of a balance, and that's really what sustainable development is about. Now, there are a set of goals, sustainable development goals. These were developed by the United Nations in Brazil, 2012. And they want to achieve these by 2030. They've each got their targets, and they've got indicators which will measure how effective we are being at meeting those targets. So we are going to go through what each of the 17 goals are. Now, as we do this, we're going to do a little bit of revision and maybe try to make you aware of what you've already learnt in the course, and also what you might need to brush up on a little bit. Now, if you're just watching this on YouTube, you won't get that. You'll just get a list of goals, but do it the right way. Okay, so number one, end poverty in all its forms, everywhere. It's quite simple and strong, that one. We end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. We ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. We ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. So we can see these are pretty common sense goals, right? We can see why we want to do this. Number 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. So you notice a bit of a theme here, for all. This in itself really talks about equality, doesn't it? Build resilient infrastructure and promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. Reduce inequality within and among countries. So we've talked about inequality, but you can see it's a common theme in these goals. Okay, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Sustainable consumption and production patterns. We want to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. This one's a mouthful. Protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. We want peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. So we can see it's not all about environmental sustainability, but these are about developing, improving the lives of everyone in a country. And lastly, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. So it's almost sustaining the push for sustainable development. Okay, so in terms of being examined, a direct question you might get is to state 2 goals. We've seen questions like that in the past. Otherwise, you'll be sort of analysing how a country might go against achieving a goal, perhaps in paper 2. So we've seen questions like that as well. In that case, you are given the goal. They're not saying, how are they going against goal 15? And you're supposed to remember. I don't think they're going to do things like that. But they'll quote, what we've seen is they'll quote the goal and say, how are they going with this? Look at the evidence. What evidence is there to suggest that they're going okay with it? What evidence is to the contrary? Okay. Now, there's a tiny little bit of high level stuff here. So if you are SL, you can stop watching now. If you're HL, you cannot stop watching now. This is important for you. So there's a relationship between sustainability and poverty. When we think of pollution, we often tend to think of the pollution of affluence. So the pollution that comes from our economic growth, our high income lifestyle. So things like, the emissions from flying or from driving our cars around everywhere, right? The emissions from the sheer amount of goods we produce. This is an aluminium smelter it's in Iceland actually. And we can see it's just spewing out pollution. And here that's the pollution of waterways in the US. But we're going to look at why the relationship between pollution and poverty and why poverty can cause pollution. So there's the pollution of affluence, what we generally know. Now we're going to look at the pollution of poverty. So there's a few aspects to this. So when people are poor, they're desperately trying to grow enough food, make fires to keep themselves warm. What this can lead to is a bit of illegal logging, land clearing for farming. So that can degrade the environment, of course, but it's due to the poverty. Poaching is due to the poverty. There is high demand from certain people for rhino tusks and for the hunting of rhinos for fun. So poachers, these people who live in these developing countries, they're so poor that it's harder for them to say no to helping people to do things. The incentive is too high because they don't have many other opportunities. So it's caused by poverty, and of course removing animals from their ecosystems changes the ecosystem and degrades the environment. Overfishing. I think we all understand this one. People just trying to make money. They can't afford to stop fishing as much as they can. So there can be a lot of overfishing in these parts of the world. Not to say that this doesn't happen in richer countries, because it certainly does. And the inability to afford sanitation. So we get this pollution, the sustainability. This is an open sewer. So think of what goes into sewage, and this is just flowing down the middle of a street where kids are playing. Obviously not a good outcome at all. And inability to afford clean heating. So wood fires, while relatively common, are pretty bad for you. They release some carcinogens, so they damage the environment with all the emissions as well.